See from the video, we've come an awfully long way as a conference, and I want to thank you all for being here. I'd also like to thank our many gold partners who are here with us today. On behalf of all of our schools, we greatly appreciate all that you do for our student athletes, the great experiences that you provide, and the partnership that you offer with the conference. I also want to acknowledge that many of our sponsors and advertisers are here today. We greatly appreciate your support and thank you for being here with us. On these grounds, here at the Sony lot, history has been made and brought to life through celebrated movies and television. Today, our football coaches and accomplished student athletes take over the stage to kick off what we expect to be a historic Pac-12 football season, full of highlight reel action, big stars, and compelling storylines. Today's activities at Football Media Day are being streamed live through PAC-12.com. Footage is being provided to our partners, to news outlets across the country, and tonight at 7 p.m. on the Pac-12 networks, there'll be a 2-hour primetime special about today's activities. I hope you will all check it out. Before looking forward, I wanted to look back on what's been an amazing year for the Pac-12 Conference that again solidifies why our conference is known as the Conference of Champions. For the 8th consecutive year, the Pac-12 won more NCAA titles than any other conference in the country, running our grand total up to 459 NCAA team titles, which is more than 200 the next nearest conference. Our 8 national titles this past season came in 5 women's and 3 men's sports. Women's cross country, men's and women's water polo, skiing, women's indoor track, women's tennis, women's golf, and baseball. In addition to the titles, 8 Pac-12 teams finished second in NCAA championship events. The final Learfield Sports Directors Cup rankings this year highlighted the depth of our success across the board as a conference. Not only did Stanford win its 19th consecutive cup, 19 in a row winning the Learfield Cup, but 6 other Pac-12 schools finished ranked in the top 25, the most of any conference. We also had a Pac-12 representative atop the men's Capital One Cup. After capturing the College World Series late in the year, the UCLA Bruin men notched their first ever Capital One Cup victory, the most successful men's program in the country. On the basketball court, our teams earned 9 bids to the NCAA tournament, 5 men's and 4 women's. The conference stepped up too, with new postseason tournaments in Seattle and Las Vegas that got rave reviews and proved to be memorable experiences for our teams, student athletes, and fans. The Pac-12 Globalization Initiative pushes a step further this summer, with 4 tours going on last month and this coming month. The Pac-12 All-Star Women's Volleyball team competed in China. We've got upcoming tours with the Arizona State men's basketball team and Cal's women's basketball team. These trips provide transformative experiences for our student athletes and true cultural exchange for the student athletes. And in a few days, a delegation of Pac-12 men's basketball coaches, including Oregon State's Craig Robinson, will travel to Shanghai to lead coaching clinics for more than 150 Chinese coaches. This trip is in partnership with the Federation University Sports China, the Chinese government body responsible for intercollegiate athletics in China, who we have a memorandum of understanding with. Importantly, these tours and our associated efforts in China will lead to more competitive opportunities, as well as new platforms through which our universities can build their brand in this key emerging market. This past year, the Pac-12 became the first and only conference to own and operate its own media company with the launch of the Pac-12 networks. Year 1 was a resounding success, and we surpassed significant milestones for content, production, and technology. Just consider, in the launch year, the networks produced 550 live events and 500 hours of shoulder programming, more than any sports network has ever done in its first year. Pac-12 networks involve students across the board, employing students from our campuses in over 1,500 production positions. Pac-12 networks offered TV everywhere at launch, so many of you were able to follow games on these devices during the season, not just your television. And finally, Pac-12 Networks attracted more than 50 distributors in its launch year, including 3 of the top 4 largest in the country, and more than 100 advertisers in our first year, many of which are prominent national brands. And we did this while turning a profit in our first year, and providing long overdue exposure for our student athletes, particularly in women's sports and previously underserved Olympic sports. There are plans for significant increases in programming and production this upcoming year. Pac-12 Networks will be increasing its live event production from 550 events last year to 750 live events this year, and will be adding some must-see programs for Pac-12 fans with unprecedented access to our coaches, student athletes, and competitions. The team at Pac-12 Networks continues to work hard on adding the remaining few distributors that don't carry the network. And with a month to go before kickoff of Pac-12 football, I want to be upfront with our fans who are still unable to watch the network, especially those with DirecTV. As recently as last week, our team discussed a deal with DirecTV that's fundamentally the same as the 50-plus other distributors that are carrying the network. Unfortunately, we're still at an impasse with DirecTV, no closer than we were last football season. Unfortunately, it's become clear they don't intend to take the network this year. And with a month to go before the launch of the football season, we want our fans to know that, because they've got ample opportunities with other distributors to carry the network. And with so many good things happening in the conference, unprecedented exposure, significant football games, and many other games from all of our schools that are going to be on the network, we want to be candid with our fans. We know they've been patient. We want to give them ample time to make new plans before this football season begins at the end of August. I urge our fans that are intent in not missing their team's games this fall to drop DirecTV and switch to one of the many providers that have it. All of our coaches and athletics directors that previously had DirecTV have now switched to a provider that has it, and they are urging their fans to do the same. Shifting gears now to the big topic this week at many of the other media days regarding the current state of the NCAA. It's clear that right now the NCAA is at a crossroads. It's time for a new vision, and I believe there's a responsibility of the major conferences to provide thought leadership and articulate a future vision for college athletics. If we fail to do so, we forfeit the right to complain about the status quo. The movement and change over the past few years has transformed college athletics in many respects. We've introduced new and lucrative revenue streams through new TV deals, also have raised important questions about student-athlete welfare. At the same time, there's been an eroding trust in the NCAA and its reform agenda. This is the time to initiate change. But unlike some of what you've heard this week, I believe we should be pursuing a strategy of evolution rather than radical overhaul. I spoke to President Mark Emmert this week, and I was delighted to see yesterday that he announced plans to call a summit in January to discuss exactly what that change should look like. I support that, and I think that represents a positive step forward. And of course, there'll be a lot of discussion between now and January about what the shape of that change should look like. However, the current discussion we've heard this week, from my perspective, is both too radical and too narrow at the same time. Too radical in that the answer from my perspective is not breakaway, but to evolve into something better. It's been too narrow in that it's solely focused on the NCAA and the governance process. Our discussion should not merely be about the NCAA as an institution, but it should be broader, focusing on the future shape of college athletics, what it means to fans, and what it means to our student athletes. In my mind, there are 4 areas of emphasis that are being discussed, and there are many complex issues to be put on the table, but really there have been 4 high priority items that we've all been focused on. The first is student athlete welfare. The health and well-being of student athletes should always be paramount. We've made progress in head trauma in college football, but more emphasis on health and safety would improve college athletics at the highest level. There are serious issues regarding student finances including our desire to cover the full cost of attendance for student athletes. This must also be addressed. On the topic of governance, it's time to acknowledge that one size does not fit all, and that we need more flexibility in the system. We must design a structure that allows for appropriate differences based on priorities and resources throughout the NCAA. The structure must also give voice to more constituencies. While our presidents and chancellors have an important oversight role to play, we would also benefit from adding the expertise and experience of practitioners, athletics directors, commissioners, and many others that have an important perspective. The third area of focus has been enforcement. I think it's fair to say confidence in the enforcement process is at an all-time low. The fairness, speed, consistency, and thoroughness of NCAA investigations must be reviewed, as well as the impact these investigations and decisions have on our universities as a whole. The final area of emphasis in our discussions has been the issue of one and done in college basketball. This trend threatens our credibility in the goal of balancing academics and athletics. It's time to reconsider a system that currently allows student athletes to be on our campuses for less than 12 months. These are big challenges, and the fixes are complicated. But I'm confident that meaningful progress can be made in the next year to put us down a different path. With the support and guidance of our Pac-12 presidents, where we are represented on the NCAA Board of Directors and Executive Committee by Chancellor Gene Block of UCLA, we can work with peer conferences to restore trust in the NCAA and the collegiate model as a whole. Now, returning to the topic of the day, Pac-12 football. The conference sits in an enviable position as we enter what I believe will be a historic year in many respects. Not only have we enjoyed success at the top of our conference with 2 Pac-12 teams playing in BCS bowl games each of the last 3 seasons, but we've shown increasing depth across our 2 divisions. And with such a diverse set of offensive schemes, anyone would be hard-pressed to find a conference that's going to be more dynamic and exciting than the Pac-12 this year. This success is likely to continue with so many skilled players returning. The Pac-12 is going to be on everyone's radar with some of the nation's most dangerous running backs, college football's most electrifying receivers, proven quarterbacks with terrific talent, and athletic defenses. 3 new coaches are joining the Pac-12 ranks this season. It's my pleasure to welcome Coach Dykes, Coach Helfrich, and Coach McIntyre. All of this exciting action and the imprint and signature of these 3 new coaches is going to make this regular season a fabulous one. And also a season, yet again, where the strength of schedule in the Pac-12 is unrivaled. This season, our teams are going to be playing 15 non-conference games against teams that participated in bowls last season, with 4 of those games against non-conference opponents who participated in BCS bowls last year. It's a point of pride that our teams not only host these games, but they go on the road, they play at neutral site venues against top quality opponents. And of course, our 9-game conference schedule is also a point of pride. We love it from a competitive standpoint, and I believe it positions us extremely well as we move to the college football playoff next year, where it's already been made clear that the selection committee is going to emphasize strength of schedule. The Pac-12 is very well positioned structurally for the future system. The Pac-12 football championship game, a chance to compete in the Rose Bowl, a chance to compete in the last ever BCS National Championship game in Pasadena awaits our most elite teams this year. And this Rose Bowl is going to be extra special. It's the 100th anniversary of the Rose Bowl game, and the 93rd time our conference will be playing in it. Our partnership with the Rose Bowl is stronger than ever today, and this year, with its special anniversary, we're going to be adding a lot of content through our networks, a lot of marketing promotion leading up to this year's game.